The views and opinions expressed on Unlock Your Wealth Radio are those of the host, guests, and callers only and are not necessarily the views of Unlock Your Wealth Radio, Heather Wagenhals, or Success Publishing International.
Worried about retirement? Want to travel the world or just be around to watch your kids grow up, but you can't because you're drowning in debt? Now you can! With Heather Wagenhals and the Keys to Riches powered by Unlock Your Wealth Radio. Heather will show you how to stop chasing your wallet, eliminate debt, lose financial stress, and live the life of your dreams. If you truly ever wanted to have more, do more, be and give back more, now's your chance. Listen weekly to hear what others are doing to manage their money better with these proven strategies for building wealth with the Keys to Riches financial philosophy. Now, here's your host, Heather Wagenhals.
The Keys to Riches, powered by Unlock Your Wealth Radio, is sponsored in part by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at heathersfreeaudiobook.com and click on the link to over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for stopping by. We're so glad to have you. I'm Heather Wagenhals, flanked by my producer extraordinaire and the maestro of moolah, Michael Terry.
Hey, folks.
And we will help you get your money mind right on today's show with the Keys to Riches financial philosophy. So we are now in our seventh key this season.
Number 7.
What is number 7?
Break the budget.
Yes, it is. So to adopt one of my favorite characters. Well, I haven't even watched the show in a very long time, but, Mr. Mackey from South Park, budgets are bad. You know how you remember? Drugs are bad.
Yeah.
Budgets are bad.
The school teacher.
Yeah. Well, no, he was the counselor.
Oh.
Remember? Do you remember? Oh, well, we're going to get sidetracked. Sorry, so funny. I was just thinking of that swear word song, the swear word substitution song.
I was a South Park fan for maybe about a year, I think.
And the early days.
I really enjoyed it. It wasn't that I disliked it. I
it really helped put Comedy Central as a station on the map.
Yeah.
It truly did with its viewership. But anyway, that's not today's show. Breaking Our Budget is today's show.
Yeah.
And let's talk about breaking our budget for a bit because so many people think, oh, I need to get on a budget. And they think of it in the same vein as, I need to go on a diet.
Never works.
No, because what's the first thing that happens when you diet or budget?
Well, let's see. The first
under the conventional thinking, what must happen in order for them to be successful?
You have to be consistent.
No.
I mean, you can't stop doing it. Well, okay.
No, but you have to give something up.
Uh-huh.
And that's the fatal flaw with both diets and with budgeting.
So it's a negative.
Yeah, it's about sacrifice. And
as opposed to a positive.
Yes, and so it goes against the very nature of our way we process information. Right. So it goes against our biology to sacrifice or to give up.
Yeah.
So that's why we're never successful at them.
Makes sense.
So we're going to talk about that on today's show. We also have a fabulous acronym for our moolah word of the day. And then today's money drama is going to be centered around that whole premise of sacrifice. Mm-hmm. We're gonna think martyrdom on today's show when it comes to the money drama. And we're going to learn why it's not as effective as what we espouse here at the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation, which is a healthy savings and spending plan instead. And it's set up in that order for a reason. Yeah. So we'll talk about that when we get to the key. But first, moolah word.
Moolah word.
Moolah word of the day is an acronym, and it's CPI. So quarterly, when you hear about all of these financial reports coming out, all of these indexes, they talk about the health of the nation or the economy. CPI is one of those things that gets thrown out. And it's actually no big deal. But if we're intimidated by initials, it can be because then we're like, oh my gosh, and it'll paralyze us, and it creates a lot of fear when we start hearing these acronyms and jargon that we don't understand because they don't speak in English. And if you haven't taken business classes, I just think of when I first became a stockbroker, I had to take formal classes, and I had to pass an exam. There was no small feat, let me just tell you, because most people fail at first shot out. And there's a national portion and then a state law portion, because there's investment laws that are state, local investment laws, and there's also national ones. So it's no small feat. It's like kind of taking the bar almost, but not quite. It's half as long as the bar, but it's still an enormous body of work that or knowledge you have to know. And even though I had passed the Series 7, it's just like when I passed my real estate license or whatever. There's all this jargon and stuff that you have to get up to speed on. And I was watching CNBC, and Ron Insana was one of the big anchors back then. Dates me, but and it was still Chinese. All that crap flying across the bottom of the screen. I'm like, huh? And I'm supposed to be a paid professional, knowing what that all means. And I'm like, huh? So it took a while. So that's why I like Moolah Word of the Day, because it helps demystify some of that stuff and gives you a leg up on understanding on whether something is important or not. So CPI, which is our Moolah Word of the Day, stands for Consumer Price Index. And it is simply an inflationary indicator that measures the change in the cost of a fixed basket of products and services. So it's including housing, electricity, food, and transportation. It's published monthly. A fixed basket of products and services. Housing, electricity, food, and transportation. It's also referred to as the cost of living index, but what it does is it measures the fluctuation or change of a certain good. So, like if you take whatever, let's say the numbers came out today, and so you would take a CPI tells you what today's cost of good is relative to when it was way back when, and I remember so like what's the cost of a hamburger at McDonald's now? It's on the 99-cent value menu, right?
Well, I think that fluctuates, but
yeah. Well, when I was in high school, just to give you an idea of how it works, it was 29 cents for a hamburger and 39 cents for a cheeseburger.
I mean, I remember when they were a nickel.
Well, I know. So does my husband.
Nickel for a hamburger.
Yeah. So that just tells you how much inflation has affected the value of things.
Yeah.
So if it was a nickel then, it's 95 cents more now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that just tells you how inflation has changed. And so CPI is the measurement of that. And so it correlates with inflation. And so it's an indicator of where we are from way back when, or whatever the marker point is from the last measurement example. So that's where CPI comes from. So if it goes up, that means faster than it has been, so it might be going up faster than the cost of inflation. And so that might indicate things going on in the marketplace, like excessive demand, or if prices are unusually low in relative terms to the last measurement or indicator, that maybe there's an abundance of supply. Something's going on in the marketplace. So it's a good way to track what's going on at any given moment. Relative to a certain point. So that's the value of that. That's our Moolah Word of the Day. So CPI, Consumer Price Index, or Cost of Living Index. So it would be interested. I can't do the math off of the top of my head to figure out what that rate is, but obviously you can see it's quite a bit.
It's huge.
It's huge.
It's going to be 800% or something. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure wages haven't gone up 800% since then.
Well, what was minimum wage back then?
I remember working for the AMP in Connecticut, and I think I was making $1.10 an hour.
There you go. And now they want to do $12 an hour. So it's probably close.
Okay, yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, wow. It's pretty crazy. Tipped minimum wage in Arizona when I first started working was $1.81 an hour, or if you had regular minimum wage with no tips, it was $3.35 an hour. So it's gone up quite a bit in my lifetime too.
Yeah.
if you think it's 4 times.
Yeah.
But you've been around a lot longer than me.
Yeah. Don't rub it in.
But anyway, so that's our moolah acronym of the day. So let's talk about this week's key, shall we? So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to Unlock Your Wealth Radio and the Keys to Riches powered by Unlock Your Wealth Radio. And the Keys to Riches is a financial philosophy that teaches you how to think like the rich and be in control of your own money. It also gives you specific techniques to create or fix your credit, eliminate debt, save and invest, all while transforming your current financial habits into healthy money management skills. And we do that one key at a time, 1 week at a time. So if you have been doing your assessment envelope from Key 2, if you've been with us this whole season, now's the time you're going to be breaking that puppy out. If you haven't been and are just learning for the first time, no sweat. We'll get you up to speed really quick. So for those of you that have been with us, what we did is we started with an organic assessment. And if you recall, I was having you collect all of these receipts for a reason, because what we were trying to do is not assess your money going in and out. Like, that's the way we track it, but we were looking for other things. So now that you have your envelope filled, we're going to break out those receipts, and then we're going to categorize them and use our monthly savings and spending tracker to catalog them. And we're not looking for how much, because that's relative. So if you are a millionaire, your expenses are going to seem so much greater than somebody else's expenses that's not a millionaire, but ideally they're going to be relatively the same. 1% of your income is different than, say, 1% of a multimillionaire or a billionaire. So you got it. So it's all relative, and all these things, the percentage or categories apply. But once you start making more money, those ratios should change. And the dollar amounts should actually get lower, not higher. And that's where the misconception of the moneyism is: the more you make, the more you spend. Because ideally, it shouldn't be that way. Or at least it shouldn't.
Exactly.
It could be the more you make, the more you spend. But we can't have the more you make, the more you finance. Right. Because that's the challenge.
Right.
Is the credit spending. So if you're, my money management philosophy when I first, started getting credit cards and stuff like that, because I didn't know any better. And this is how bad it was. I was a stockbroker helping millionaires make more millions. And I was still living on this financial philosophy of, if I could afford the minimum monthly payment on a credit card, I could get it.
Yeah.
Because I just made assumptions about what the rich were doing. I just really didn't know what they were doing. Because when they handed out a piece of plastic, it's because they didn't want to carry cash for safety reasons. When I handed out a piece of plastic, that was my money. Yeah. Because I was frittering away with the cash too. Well, I also had a husband that helped with that. Yeah. So that was part of my challenge. But so when we think about it, we're going to talk in terms of the purpose of doing the assessment isn't about the dollar amount. So get that out of your head. That's just the way we're going to keep score, is by the dollar amount. But what we're actually looking for isn't the how much. We're looking for the when expenditures occur. And we're going to address what is going on that precipitated those expenditures, so we can determine how to correct the behavior. Because this is not about logic. This isn't about balance sheets and addition and subtraction, money going in, money going out. This is about you consistently choosing a specific path that's inappropriate for your income. And there's reasons why we do this, and they're never about money. It's all about our pre-programmed behaviors or instinctive reactions to things. So this is where, in our Three Amigos model of information processing, this is where the I do and the curmudgeon sort of team up. And even though Logic Larry knows better, he can't do better for everybody, because he can't interrupt those two once they start conspiring and dumping hormones into the body. So what we have to do is, now we've got 6 weeks of receipts saved. So we are emotionally and instinctively distant from the occurrences that we have been tracking. And if you've been tracking it properly, you've just been stuffing it into an envelope and not even looking at it. So now we're going to break those out. We're going to go to the keystoriches.com website and we're going to download the savings and spending tracker form. And we're going to go categorize all of these expenditures by category and by date that they were made. So you're just going to pencil them in. It's real simple to do. Depending on how much money you go through each and every month will depend on how long it will take you. But I would set aside an hour or two where you could be quiet, maybe on the weekend when you don't have pressing events or obligations after, maybe you have a couple hour gap of time where your kids go play ball or something. They're at a practice and you can drop them off and then you can have a couple hours of solitude where you're undisturbed to go through all of this. Because while you're going through all of this and you start to see the patterns arise, it may conjure up some emotions, and likely they won't be pleasant ones if you've been overspending for a long time. So you're going to have to, get comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. And you might start punishing yourself. And the idea is once this happens, you need to take a break. No, you don't want to beat yourself down, Michael. That's not what we want to do, because that's what'll happen. We'll start feeling guilty, or we'll start creating all of these things and start beating ourselves up about us, trying to hold ourselves to an unrealistic standard of accountability. So we just want to be third-party observers. Pretend like you're helping your friend sort out their finances, so you stay emotionally disengaged, because that's the key, is, practicing our fifth key, which is take emotion out of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
That one.
So ideally, this is where we want to do this. So if it helps, pretend like you're looking over somebody else's finances. And if you haven't communicated with your spouse in a while, it might seem like unfamiliar territory if they filled up the envelope further.
You don't want to be doing your kids' finances. That would bring emotion into the picture.
Yes. So think of you're helping out some stranger or whatever.
No family members.
Well, because you'll want to reach across the table and slap them. But pretend like it's somebody you don't know. Distance yourself, be away from it. Instead of living the movie, put it up on the movie screen and watch it as it unfolds. Because that's what we want to do, is we want to get a clear picture of it. Because what happens with the brain is, again, we've got this double-edged sword towards pleasure, away from pain. Ideally, it's done to keep us safe, right? Keep us out of harm's way. We get up, we could live to fight another day. But, or I should say, however, that is where our brains can get the best of us in our biology and sabotage us. Under the auspices of help and support, and that we're doing the right thing, we've allowed the I do, which is our pre-programmed behavior, and the curmudgeon, which is our emotions and memory, kind of dictate what they think is best for us to try to, quote, keep us safe, away from pain, towards pleasure. But they actually make things worse because they don't get it right. They just move instinctively. And this is where we have to drink a tall glass of water, break our emotional state. If you start getting upset by what you're seeing, or it's making you sick to your stomach, or in some way, you need to just break that state. Get up, walk around. Exercise is the antidote for anxiety. So we have to move. Your body can't hold two states of being at the same time. You can't be anxious and calm at the same time. So if you find yourself starting to get anxious, it means your hormones are starting to dump. And you need to get up and you need to move before they take hold, because it'll take 20 minutes or more if you have a severe adrenaline dump. That's fight, flight. So what we want to do is just avoid that growing anxiety. So get up and move. It might, that's why I'm saying set aside a couple of hours, because you might not be able to sit down and do it all in one shot. Okay. And we want to make sure that we're keeping a level head. So keep, checking in with yourself. Am I breathing normally? Is my heart rate relaxed? Am I feeling tension in my body? If you are, you're starting to experience anxiety and you need to get rid of it. And you don't have to go to the source of it to get rid of it. You don't have to figure out, what part of my childhood is making me think this. No. This isn't Sigmund Freud. This is money management. So we just got to get out, walk around, and get rid of it, because it's just a symptom of the growing problem of bad money management. And if we can just keep putting some Band-Aids on by moving around, getting rid of that anxiety, then we can go back and actually, perform the surgery and then get rid of the problem totally, which is the bad money management. But it doesn't have anything to do with you knowing what to do, because we already know to spend less and save more, but we don't. So we have to fix that by surgically altering what it is that we do. But until we know what we're doing, that's why we have the assessment, we can't move to make corrections to it. You are listening to the Keys to Riches, powered by Unlock Your Wealth Radio. This segment of today's show is sponsored in part by KeepMyID.org, the only service that actually prevents identity theft. All others are just monitoring services. Put your credit on lockdown with their special offer for Unlock Your Wealth Radio listeners. Visit keystoriches.com/KeepMyID and protect your financial future right now. Make sure to use promo code WAGS. So the key is to do all of this stuff, get everything into all of the categories so we can see what we're spending, like what are our big categories, or that seem unusually large, but because we weren't tracking them, we may not know. And one of the popular categories that people justify bad behavior is eating, because it's primal and we have to do it. And so, but we don't have to eat out at Mastro's Steakhouse, okay? Because they sell steaks other places that are not as pricey. And the reason why I say that is you can have a $100 steak at Mastro's, you can have a $10 steak at Applebee's, okay? Now, granted, they're different steaks, okay? But they're still cow, right?
Correct.
So when we approach how we ought to make our changes, the first thing we conjure up, like I said at the beginning of the show, when we think about budgets, is deprivation. But that's the worst thing that we can do, because in our minds, if you keep saying, I can't have this, I can't have this, right? What's going to happen is that overwhelming drive towards pleasure is going to negate the level of fatness you're experiencing, if it has to do with dieting, or the painful credit cards that you're going to get a month later, because putting it on plastic doesn't have the same ramifications as paying cash for things. And so if we keep saying, no, I can't do this, no, I can't do this, and keep depriving ourselves, at some point, we're going to go overboard. And so the person who walks by the chocolate cake every day and says, no, I can't have this, I can't have this, first off, they're, linguistically playing a bad joke on themselves, but they're inviting a bigger binge later on. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's why we break a budget, because if you go to the root word, and you are a fan of etymology, budget is actually a French word, budget. And it was from long ago, it was a small, cocktail purse. Yeah. And so it could only hold a few things. And that was the whole point, is that it only held essentials, or a limited number of things. And so you had to pick and choose what you left out. And so that's kind of, and then, we've also got the acronym of, if you think about in government, Congress has what they call the power of the purse, right, if you will. So we've got all these references back to this word budget, which was actually a small coin purse, or so you could hold lipstick, it's maybe lipstick, a compact, keys, a few bucks. So that's it. And so that's it's about deprivation is what a budget is. It's grown, and its importance of that definition has faded over time, and so we don't think about it in such terms. But it's about deprivation. I can have this, I can't have that. And so that sounds all well and good when we create these rules for budgeting or dieting, but they don't work, is the bigger problem. They don't work. So what we have to do is figure out what does work. And what does work is creating a healthy savings and spending plan instead. Just like we create a healthy exercise and eating plan, we have to create a healthy savings and spending plan. If you went to the gas station, and you needed to fill up your gas tank, okay, you would fill it up until the pump automatically shut off, right? Right. It's a pretty cool feature. Right. So would you keep pumping gas if it spilled on the floor? And no. Okay. So that's what we do with our diets is food is fuel. So we overfill the gas tank, and you can do that in the human body. And with our wallets, we can overspend, because once the cash is gone, we can reach for plastic. And that's where the problem begins, right, is because we don't have an automatic shutoff. Okay. And it has to do with this whole biological, towards pleasure away from pain thing. And so at some point, if we keep depriving ourselves and telling ourselves, no, we're just going to go nuts on the other end of the spectrum and splurge. And usually it's going to be worse than if we would just had little indulgences here and there to satisfy that need to seek pleasure and be comfortable. So instead of walking past that big, chocolate cake and denying yourself a little nibble here and there, you wind up eating the whole dang thing. So that's what we're trying to avoid here when it comes to our budgets. And so I have this little phrase, as you start paring down the categories, because you're going to see where you're going to have excesses. It's not about what can I cut out, but what can I do to maintain the same level of pleasure this particular item or event, dining out on a fat steak does for me, but do it cheaper. So it's not no, it's just not now. And instead of not now, it's how. Because when we say, no, I can't have that, again, we know the brain doesn't hear the word no. Right. And we also know that the brain doesn't hear the negative part, say what you want, not what you don't want. So when we say, I can't have that, your brain isn't hearing the not. It's hearing, I can have that. So ultimately, it overrides it. So instead of saying, I need to avoid that, what we need to do is go to the other end of the spectrum and say, okay, I can have that. Give yourself permission to have it, but just choose to not do it right now. Choose to say, I can have that, but not right now. Maybe later. And then that way, that satisfies that urge or that need to satisfy ourselves or satiate ourselves in this moment, with whatever that financial expenditure may be. But it keeps our finances intact and we don't blow budgets. Right. Because, ideally, then we're like, oh my God, now we feel guilt for blowing the budget. And guilt just says, at some point we're going to be like, oh, whatever, all hope is lost.
Yeah, whatever.
And then stop doing it. Yeah. So how does that play into today's money drama? And is how do we apply this this understanding of our biology and the not saying no concept. And what we have to do is not deny ourselves that chocolate cake. Give us permission to have it just in that moment. Because by giving us permission to have it, now we've taken all of the adrenaline out of the situation. We've taken all of that instinctive response to still charge forward towards pleasure. Or still charge forward or backward away from pain. So we satisfy the I do by not saying no to him, not depriving him in any way. And so then the curmudgeon doesn't get all wired out either, because now we're going to allow Logic Larry, we're inviting him out of the closet to say, help us say later. Because just like we can say later in avoiding pain when it comes to doing our homework, I can watch a movie now or I could do my homework now. Well, homework, I don't like homework, so that represents pain, and a movie represents pleasure. So I'm going to do the movie thing right now. And then I'm going to have to cram to get my homework done. And I probably won't get a good grade because I did that. So what we're doing is by saying, yes, you can have it, now we're allowing for a stable biology, and then Logic Larry can come out and say, yeah, I could have that, but I'm evaluating opportunity cost, and instead of spending $100 for that steak, you know what, why don't I just go to the store or go to another restaurant and buy a less expensive steak? So I still get steak. I'm still satisfying that towards value, but I'm not crushing my finances as I do it. Because that's the bigger problem is, darn it, I worked hard, I feel entitled. Yeah, you are entitled to a little reward. Does that reward mean maxing out your credit cards and flaking on your debt? No. Okay, that means, yes, you deserve a little reward. But what is that reward in relation to or balanced with or against achieving financial freedom and your obligation as an individual to be financially responsible for yourself and self-sufficient for yourself and any member of the human race that you bring into this world. Right. Because it's about individual responsibility. And we can't be objective and responsible for our individual selves if we are emotionally engaged, because we can't be reasonable and rational. And so we have to keep our biology straight, even when it comes to budgeting our finances. So we have to break the budget and get rid of that concept entirely and create a healthy savings and spending plan today, because you can have a little bit more cake today. Say one bite didn't satisfy it, so you had a second bite. Well, guess what? You can skip tomorrow's bite. You can say, yeah, I could have this bite, but I'm choosing not to. So for all of the key statement, key affirmation, and key action items for this week's key, please visit our website at keys-to-riches.com, where you go to get your money mind right so your wealth and happiness will follow. Become an Insiders Club member today and start receiving the benefits of millionaire wisdom right now. For the Keys to Riches, powered by Unlock Your Wealth Radio and the Maestro of Moolah, Michael Terry, I'm Heather Wagenhals. Now go out and unlock your wealth today.
UnlockYourWealthRadio.com is produced by Heather Wagenhals and the Unlock Your Wealth Foundation. UnlockYourWealthRadio.com and its affiliates are copyrighted 2016 with all rights reserved. For more information on the Keys to Riches Financial Wellness Series, please visit our website at www.unlockyourwealth.com.